What happened to Crosby, Stills, and Nash?
Crosby, Stills, and Nash was formed by David Crosby, Stephen Stills, and Graham Nash, each of whom had previously been part of other successful bands. Crosby was a part of the Byrds, Stills played in Buffalo Springfield with Neil Young, and Nash was part of the Hollies. Crosby's departure from the Byrds in 1967 led him to perform with Buffalo Springfield at the Monterey Pop Festival, where he filled in for Neil Young. After Buffalo Springfield disbanded in early 1968, Stills and Crosby began jamming together. During a meeting on Crosby's yacht, they collaborated with Paul Kantner of Jefferson Airplane to create the song Wooden Ships. Nash, who had previously met Crosby, joined them after the Hollies toured California. At a party, Nash was impressed by Stills' piano playing and invited Stills and Crosby to perform a Stills composition. The three realized their vocal chemistry during the performance, leading to the formation of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Nash decided to leave the Hollies in December 1968 and flew to Los Angeles to join Crosby and Stills. The trio traveled to London for an audition with the Beatles' Apple Records, but it didn't work out. However, they were signed by Ahmet Ertegun of Atlantic Records upon their return to California. They decided to use their surnames as identification, ensuring independence and preventing the band from continuing without one of them. They secured the services of Elliot Roberts and David Geffen as managers, who helped them sign with Atlantic and navigate the music industry. While Stills and Crosby were already signed to Atlantic, Nash was still under contract with Epic Records. Ertegun arranged a deal with Clive Davis to trade Nash to Atlantic in exchange for Richie Furay and Poco. Their debut album, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, was released in May 1969 and it became a major success in the U.S. The album featured hits like Sweet, Judy Blue Eyes, and Marrakesh Express and received platinum certifications. To support the album, additional personnel were needed for touring, as Stills played most of the instruments on the recording. After forming Crosby, Stills, and Nash, the band decided to expand and retain Neil Young as a full partner. They initially tried to hire a keyboard player, approaching Steve Winwood but finding him occupied with Blind Faith. Young, who was already managed by Elliot Roberts, was suggested by Ahmet Ertegun. Despite reservations from Stephen Stills and Graham Nash due to their history with Young in Buffalo Springfield and personal unfamiliarity, they eventually accepted him as a member. They recruited former Buffalo Springfield bassist Bruce Palmer, but had to replace him with Greg Reeves, a recommendation from Rick James due to Palmer's problems. With Young on board, they embarked on a tour that included their iconic performance at the Woodstock Festival in 1969. The visibility gained from Woodstock and their appearance in the film boosted their profile. They also performed at other notable festivals that year. The highly anticipated album, Deja Vu, was released in March 1970, becoming a huge success. It topped the charts, generated hit singles like Joni Mitchell's Woodstock, and sold over 8 million copies in the US. However, tensions within the band led to personnel changes. Reeves was fired and replaced by Calvin Fuzzy Samuels, while drummer Dallas Taylor was dismissed after conflicts with Young. John Barbada joined as the new drummer. The band faced further challenges, including still substance abuse and clashes between band members. During their second American tour, Stills was fired but later reinstated after an extended solo set at the Fillmore East. The tour ended as scheduled, but the band broke up immediately afterward. Various factors, including personal conflicts, romantic entanglements, and Stills' behavior, contributed to the breakup. A live album, Four-Way Street, featuring recordings from the tour, was released in 1971 and topped the charts. The band reunited in 1974 for a tour. Between September 1970 and May 1971, each member of Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young released solo albums that garnered significant attention. Neil Young's After the Gold Rush included his first solo hit, Only Love Can Break Your Heart, while Stephen Stills' self-titled debut reached number 3 on the charts, featuring hits like Love the One You're With. David Crosby released If I Could Only Remember My Name, and Graham Nash released Songs for Beginners, both placing in the top 15. In 1971, Stills released his second solo album, Stephen Stills 2, which reached number 8 and included minor hits like Change Partners and Marianne. He embarked on a successful solo tour with Dallas Taylor, Fuzzy Samuels, and the Memphis Horns. Crosby and Nash also went on a theater tour as a duo. The year 1972 brought more success as Neil Young's album Harvest topped the charts with hits like Heart of Gold, which was his only number 1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Stills formed the band Manassas with Chris Hillman and released a self-titled double album, and Nash and Young released a joint single called War Song. However, 1973 was a less successful year for the group members. Young released 2 solo albums, Time Fades Away and Tonight's the Night, which received critical acclaim but had modest commercial success. Crosby produced a reunion album of the original Byrds lineup, which was met with criticism. Stills released another album with Manassas, and Nash recorded his second solo album, Wild Tales, but both fell short of expectations in sales. Only Time Fades Away achieved gold certification, marking a departure from the band's previous success. In June and July 1973, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young attempted to record a new album, but their disagreements quickly resurfaced, causing the group to scatter again. They briefly reunited for a couple of acoustic performances in October, but didn't commit to a full reunion. However, in March 1974, Stills announced a Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young summer tour and a projected studio album. The quartet finally reassembled in the summer, rehearsing at Young's ranch before embarking on a 2-month tour directed by Bill Graham. The tour featured notable opening acts and showcased both old favorites and new songs. However, tensions and excesses took a toll on the group. Stills adopted a military aesthetic, and Crosby indulged in a promiscuous lifestyle. Despite these challenges, Young premiered many new songs on the tour. Atlantic Records released the compilation album So Far to coincide with the tour. Following the tour, the quartet reconvened to finish their long-awaited follow-up to Deja Vu. However, tensions resurfaced during the recording sessions, leading to Young's departure after an argument. The remaining members attempted to complete the album under the Crosby, Stills, and Nash name, but the sessions dissolved due to conflicts between Stills and Nash. Crosby and Nash signed a separate contract with ABC Records, embarked on tours, and released 2 studio albums. Stills and Young pursued their careers, with Stills releasing multiple albums and Young releasing Tonight's the Night and Zuma. Stills and Young briefly reunited for an album and tour as the Stills-Young Band, but tensions between them resurfaced and they separated during the tour. Young claimed he needed rest due to a throat infection, while Stills continued the tour alone as per his contractual obligations. In 1976, Stills approached Crosby and Nash during a performance, leading to the reunion of the trio. They recorded their self-titled album, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, in Miami and released it in 1977. The album achieved great success, reaching number 2 on the Billboard 200, featuring the hit singles Just a Song Before I Go and Fair Game, and earning quadruple platinum certification. In 1978, they received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. However, Crosby's increasing dependence on freebase cocaine complicated their further work as a group. Nash's album Earth and Sky was originally intended to be a Crosby and Nash project, but Crosby's drug issues prevented his participation. Stills released his album Thoroughfare Gap in 1978, which received limited success. In the early 1980s, Stills and Nash recorded Daylight Again as a duo, but Atlantic Records refused to release it until Crosby was reinstated. The album reached number 8 on the Billboard 200 and produced hits like Wasted on the Way and Southern Cross. Despite the changing music landscape, the album received platinum certification. Crosby's troubles continued, including arrest on drug and weapons charges, which led to the band's lowest charting album, Allies. Crosby was eventually sentenced to prison, but was released after 8 months. Young agreed to rejoin the trio in the studio after Crosby's release from prison in 1988, as he had promised to do so if Crosby cleaned up his act. However, during the making of the album American Dream, Stills and Crosby were struggling due to health problems, and the late 80s production overwhelmed the band. The album received mixed reviews, reaching number 16 on the Billboard 200, and Young refused to support it with a Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young tour. Despite this, Crosby, Stills, and Nash recorded 2 more studio albums in the 1990s, but they sold poorly. In 1999, Young joined the group for the album Looking Forward, which fared relatively well both critically and commercially. Crosby, Stills, and Nash were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997. Various compilations and retrospective box sets have been released over the years. The band continued to perform and collaborate intermittently, including a tour in 2006 and a performance on The Colbert Report. Unfortunately, in 2023, David Crosby passed away at the age of 81, preventing any reunions happening since their last one was in 2015. However, though, the rest of the members are still alive and well and still performing music to this day in various projects in various ways. And that's what happened to Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe if you haven't already, and give me some facts about them that I failed to mention. It is hard to mention every single little detail about what happened to a band as popular as this. Also, let me know who I should do next on this channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.